Hello, welcome back. It's Freddy in the Shed, and in this video we're going to be taking a look at these very affordable, and these really are affordable. You'll be shocked when I tell you how cheap these are. These very affordable little PMR radios from Retevis. The model is RT617. We'll do a full review. We'll discuss the price. We'll have a closer look at this 617 radio. We'll go through the features you can access via the radio itself, and then the additional optional features you can access via the software. And then finally, we'll do some testing in a built-up area. We'll take this out on the road, we'll transmit back, and we'll test the audio quality and the receive. There are two versions of this radio available on the Retevis website. This one has the longer antenna, which should in theory give you a slightly longer range. I haven't got the two radios side by side to compare, but there is another version. It's a little bit cheaper. It's the RT617, which is the same radio, but it has a shorter, reduced, stubby antenna. Now, as I just mentioned, value-wise, it's really hard to beat these radios from Retevis. Two radios, two desk chargers, which we'll have a look at in the moment. UK price, 21 UK pounds plus a little bit of postage, $27.99, and that's for a set of two radios. Amazing value. Now, because it's so cheap, I was thinking that these radios might be low quality, but they're not. They're actually not. When you get them out of the box, they're really nicely made, very nicely finished. Everything clicks together.
Turn on the radio. 6.
As you can hear, it talks to you. Everything clicks together really nicely. Even the little belt loop, we have connection here. It's got a nice metal spring clip. Sometimes they're just plastic, and there we go, a real solid action. And it's a very nice, rugged looking radio. Now, on the website, they say that they have tested these, a drop test of 1 metre onto a hard surface. I'm not going to replicate that there, but I think I can believe it when I actually have this in my hand, feeling the quality. I think mostly these radios are probably designed for business use, hotels, warehouses, things like that. But I think because they are so hard wearing, they'll be ideal in perhaps a carer situation, if you're looking after someone that has mobility issues, maybe someone that's just had surgery, post-surgery, maybe someone that has a disability and they can't get about, or even the elderly. I think this would be an ideal radio in that situation to keep in contact. It's certainly robust and rugged enough. It will take a few drops and a few knocks. I think it will hold together quite well. One thing that I like straight out of the box is the fact that each radio comes with its own charging stand. Again, in a business environment or in a caring environment, it makes sense because the radio can just stay on the stand when you're not using it. It charges via a 5-volt USB. So if you've got a spare phone charger, that's not a problem. So it stays on the stand there, and then it's ready to go, and the battery remains charged. Now, battery wise, it's quite a decent sized battery. They are 1200 mAh and it's 3.7 volts. I would have thought that would last all day on standby and with normal use. The radios use the standard legal 16 channels. They also have anti-interference codes, sometimes called privacy codes, but they're not totally private. What it basically means is when you transmit your voice audio, the radio also transmits a digital sub-signal with a special code. The receiving radio looks for that code, and when it locks onto it, the two radios are then locked together. Now, if, say, you're in a busy environment, could be at business or maybe at a holiday camp, something like that. If someone else is using another radio and they're on channel 16, for example, you're on channel 16, as long as they're not tuned in to the same DCS code, and I believe there's about 150 codes to choose from, then your radio will not receive their signal and their radio will not receive your signal. So it is kind of private. Where you have to be a little bit careful is if someone is around with a radio with the digital codes switched off, or they don't have digital codes, then your transmission can be received. So it's not 100% private. It just cuts down on interference, which was always a problem with the older PMR radios. One of the questions that always comes up in the comments, I think before people watch the whole video, or maybe they don't watch the whole video, but they'll say to me, Fred, how far can these radios work? What is my maximum transmit and receive range? Now then, if you're using these radios in a built-up area, such as I am, I'm thinking a caring situation, you've got one person inside the house, the other person goes outside the house, lots of houses, cars, infrastructure. Realistically, you're talking at absolute maximum of 1 kilometre, just over half a mile. But to have very good, strong communications, you're looking at maybe just about 600 to 700 metres in a built-up area. If you're in a much open area, out in the fields, out on a farm, something like that, if you can get one of these radios up to high ground, then the range does start to increase substantially. If you've never used a radio before, you're a little bit apprehensive, don't be. These radios are absolutely dead simple. Straight out of the box, they're pre-programmed to talk to each other across the 16 channels. It's a simple case of turning them on, turning them onto the same channel, and they're ready to go. The radios do come with quite a nice printed user manual. There's some good illustrations there to get you started. When you delve into it a little bit deeper, there is some typical pidgin English. That's a little bit unfortunate. But like I say, if you just want to use the basic radio, you probably won't have to refer to that. Now, if you want to go a little bit further, these radios can be programmed via software. You would need to purchase an additional programming cable. This is available at the Retevis website. I'll leave a link in the description. It's not expensive. I believe it's about £5 UK. Using that cable and the free software to download from the website, you can make additional adjustments on the radio. There's a few features you can turn on, such as, for example, a scan feature that you might want to use, a voice activated feature where you don't have to press the PTT. You can also put in a program password. This would be good maybe for business use. So once you've set the radio how you want to do it, the radio can then be locked. It can't be adjusted. And there's things like the timeout timer. Again, if you're perhaps using this with the elderly, someone's going to be keying up a long time, you can set the radio so it will stop transmitting after a certain length of time to save the battery. And also you can adjust the squelch. Now normally these radios, the squelch, which cuts out the background interference by the way, the squelch is normally set around about 5, and that's absolutely fine. If you want to make it more sensitive, if you're going to set these radios up and use them on a further distance, you can turn that down to 1 or 0, and you could turn it off altogether, but then the radio will be quite noisy. Quick look at the basic operation of the radio. Dead easy. I don't think anyone should have any trouble using this. On top of the radio, 2 controls, a on-off switch and a volume, and then there's the 16 channel select. The radio does have voice prompts as well, so if you're thinking of giving this to someone that is visually impaired, that shouldn't be a problem. Let's turn it on.
Turn on the radio. 1.
There you go. So straight away it talks to you, and every time you change channel,
2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Very, very clear. To transmit, that's the button on the side there. Simply push and hold it in. You can see the radio in the background now. It's receiving. And the LED on the top there will go red to know that you're transmitting. Testing 1 2 1 2. And that's it. The only other button you've got on the side is a monitor button. This will be, because these radios are using digital codes, if you just want to check that the channel is clear and you're not going to be interfering with anybody else's transmission, you just hold that in and it breaks the squelch. Again, that's quite useful if these were a very far distance apart, you were having maybe trouble on the receive, the squelch was cutting in, you can just press that in to get a clearer signal. So very, very basic, very, very simple. On this side of the radio, we have a standard Kenwood port, a dual port there. That's good because there are absolutely stacks of Bofung accessories such as earpieces, additional microphones you can plug into this radio, and in theory, I'm not going to, just don't hold me to it, but in theory, all of those cheap accessories should fit this radio. That's also where, if you buy the additional programming cable, that's where that will plug in and talk to the radio. Right, okay, on the next bit, I'm just going to have a quick look at the software on the radio, which and see what we can sort of change. If you're not interested in that and you're not going to buy the programming cable, I'll put a little pop-up on the screen about here and you can jump forward and we'll see how the radio gets on when we do the testing. But let's have a look at that software. Let's now look at the additional features we can unlock on this radio via the software. Before we get into this, if you've never programmed one of these radios before, I did make a complete user's guide for attaching the cable to the radio, downloading all of the software, etc., and that is on the Fred in the Shed channel. I'll leave a link in the description, but I suggest that you go over and give that a watch first, and that will get you up to speed. I'll just show you where to find the software to download. Go to the main Retevis webpage, check out the RT617 radio, and then if you look at the top right hand corner, you'll see a little button there that says support. Click on that. On the support page, you'll see a firmware and software section, so you want to open that up. And then you've got two drivers. Now, to get the programming cable to talk to the computer, there is a separate driver you need to install. And then you can go ahead and install the programming software itself. As this software tends to be a little bit old, if you're using Windows 11, you might get one or two error messages that come up on your computer. You just need to work past them. The software works absolutely fine. Once you open the software, now you're going to have to go into the settings section and just check that the computer is talking to the radio via the correct COM port. If you get any problems, such as not being able to talk to the radio, I suggest you go back and just watch my guide, because I did go into that in a lot more detail. Looking at the software itself, if you've seen these before, it's all self-explanatory, but I will just go through it. Now, everything that is greyed out, unfortunately, we cannot change. So you can see the 16 channels there, and you see the 16 standard PMR frequencies. We can't change them. Next to them is the digital encoding, the sub-carrier channels. These are the privacy channels. There's no point in mucking about with those. If you look at the TX power, unfortunately, it's greyed out. We cannot turn up the power on this radio. Sometimes you can jailbreak these radios with third-party software such as Chirp. So I suggest if you want to try that, Google Chirp and you may be able to turn it up. And then we have Scan Add. This is quite interesting. We can add channels on the radio which we would like to be included on the scan feature. There's normally just a basic on-off, but here we can select individual channels, and that's quite a nice touch. Quickly moving along, we can set the bandwidth from wide and narrow. We have a busy lock as well, where we can lock out any channels that may be suffering from interference. One feature that is a little unique, I think, I've not seen this on PMR programming software before, is a scramble feature. Now it appears, and I did read this in the instructions, but it wasn't all that clear, it appears that if you set this on certain channels, the audio will be scrambled. It will be in some way encrypted, so it will be impossible for anyone to listen into your conversation. I think that is what it is. I didn't test that feature. Moving up to the top panel, things are more conventional here. First, there is the frequency range. This is locked at 400 to 470. And then you have the squelch level, and it's set as a default as 5. That's perfectly fine. Personally, I like to set mine 1 so I can get maximum range out of the radio. Below the squelch, we have the timeout timer settings, and below that, the Vox level. This is the voice activated settings here, so we can transmit the radio without the need to push the PTT. And then finally, we have the scan mode. We can have it as a carrier or a timer setting. Now, when we have the channels programmed as scannable channels, I believe what happens, and I didn't test it, but I believe is when you switch the radios onto channel 16, that becomes the scan channel, and if you don't transmit, the radio will automatically begin scanning the programmed channels. Below the scan settings is a battery safe feature that is really good, and I suggest you keep that on, and then a bleep tone. Now moving right across to the left, you'll see where it says RW password and change password. This is really for business use. If you want to lock all of these settings so no one can play about with them, this is where you would put in a password. Okay, I think that just about covers the settings, so let's get back to the review now, get outside and do some range testing. Okay, here we go then, testing. Usual thing, we're at the 100 metre point, one radio inside the house, one outside, so no problem at all. Testing, 1 2 1 2 audio 100.
Testing 1 2 1 2 audio 100 meters. 100 meters.
At the 230 metre mark, nice bit of spring foliage there. Not a problem with a radio with an antenna like this one. Let's give it a go. Yeah, audio check. Or 1 or 2. 1 2 audio 230 metres.
Yeah, audio check. Or 1 or 2. 1 2 audio 230 metres. About 3 rows of houses now between me and the receiving radio. Audio 1 2 1 2 audio.
Just over the 300 metre point. Another row of houses between me and the home-based radio. And let's give it a go. Audio check. 1 2 1 2. Over 300 metres now.
Audio check. 1 2 1 2. Over 300 metres now. By a main road. Over 300 metres. Audio 1 2 1 2 audio.
Final location. Last time I checked, it's about 500 metres, just over. Quite a few houses now in between the two radios. So a good distance if you were going to walk your dog or maybe pop to the local shop, something like that. Let's give it a go. Yeah, audio check. 1 2 1 2 audio 500 metres.
Yeah, audio check. 1 2 1 2 audio 500 metres. 500 metres from the QTH 1 2 1 2 audio.
Just to sum up this review, very impressed with the testing. Audio was very clear from the receiving radio. Now I suffer from a degree of hearing loss, so I could hear it very, very clear. If you've got no hearing issues, it'll be even clearer. And, well, what can I say? I mean, I can't think of anything negative to say about these radios. Certainly when you take in the cost, £21 UK for a pair of radios with the bases, $28. No, there's nothing really I can say against them. Also, they're built really nice. Now, I didn't test that 1 metre drop test. I didn't do that. But I think they probably would take it. They certainly are solid. There's no giving them at all. And very easy to use. Now, people ask this bit, so I'll explain it. When I put this video up on YouTube, part of their policy, I have to put it down as a paid promotional video. What it is, in fact, is that Retevis, they send me these radios free of charge. They don't influence me in any way. They don't try and sway me, the outcome of the review, good or bad. But I'm not on the Retevis payroll. I certainly don't get paid for making the video. And if you go ahead and you purchase a pair of these radios, I don't get any kickback or any commission, anything like that. I just get sent the radios free of charge. And thank you very much for Retevis for giving me the opportunity to review these radios. Now, if you would like to go ahead and purchase these radios, I will leave a link to the Retevis website in the description. I'll also leave a link for the programming cable if you want to purchase that at the same time, so you can unlock the additional features that these radios have to offer. So I think that's about it. I'd like to say, as always, thank you very much for tuning in to Fred in the Shed. There's the thumbs up from me. Please give it to me back down below if you enjoyed the video. I'd appreciate that. And as always, please, please, please take care of yourselves, stay safe, look after each other, and I'll catch you on the next one. Cheers, guys.